Let us worship God. Hymn number 18, Christ whose glory fills the skies.
Christ whose glory fills the skies, Christ the truly only light, Son of righteousness arise, triumph for the shades of night, His spring from on high be near, His door in my heart appear. Dark and cheerless is the morn, unaccompanied by thee, joyless is the day's return, till thy mercy's beams I see, till thou inward light impart, that my eyes and warm my heart. Is it then this soul of mine, is the gloom of sin and grief, fill me radiancy divine, scatter all my unbelief, more and more thyself display, shining to the perfect day.
The lesson is taken from the letter of St. Paul to the Christians at Rome, chapter 12, beginning to read at verse 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And be not fashioned according to this world, but be ye transformed.
Wesley College began in an old house on Stephen's Green in 1845. There were 3 boarders and 9 day pupils. Those numbers very soon increased, and in 1879 these premises were opened. Today the numbers have grown far more, and a decision has been made to move the entire school out to Dundrum. I asked the principal, the Reverend Gerald Miles, how he accounted for the continued growth and success of the school.
This, I think, is due to the aims of the college, which are set out at the time of its foundation as being to give a thorough literary and commercial education, combined with sound religious and moral training.
What sort of things do you do in order to work out your aims in practice?
Well, the aims are set out here, if they were put in modern language, would simply mean that we intend to help our children not only to earn a living, but to live well, and that is to live in a Christian manner. And in order to do this, of course, the primary thing is the intention of the school, is the intention of the college that we should have Christian education.
You remember in the last class I told you about the parable of the sower. Well, today I want you to illustrate this parable in a drawing. Remember that there were 4 soils. There was, first of all, the seed fell upon the pathway, the seed fell on rocky ground, the seed fell amongst thorns, and the seed fell on good ground.
Yes, Derek, could we just take that once again? Now, these notes are repeated. Why shouldn't they be tied? Why does the composer, do you think, take care to repeat those notes in the pedal?
Would it be for rhythm, sir?
I think so, to give rhythm. So be very careful, especially the first of the bar, that you give a good accent on that. Also be careful, this chord must come absolutely together. Hands and feet. Now, just starting again.
Díomh fáistí, tá daoine sin is.
Sinné Diarmid.
Sinné Diarmid.
Sinní Máire.
Sinní Máire.
Tá sé de caint le chéile.
Tá sé de caint le chéile.
Diarmid Máire.
Diarmid Máire.
Díos mar a Diarmid.
Díos mar a Diarmid.
Cabal tú a dal.
Cabal tú a dal.
Tá me dal go dín siopa.
Tá me dal go dín siopa.
Bhfuil airige dagad.
Bhfuil airige dagad.
I want you to illustrate that by drawing on the paper which you have in front of you, and to bring out those 4 points of the parable.
In here we have a solution of dilute sulfuric acid. The dropper funnel is a mixture of ethanol solution and sodium dichromate solution. Now we let this in slowly, drop by drop.
Now, very good crossing over there. You take this all with one hand to leave the left hand free. Very careful if you're counting there. You get only 2 beats rest and then in on exactly the first beat of the bar. Watch the register of the pedal. Now, could we take just from there again, putting in the grate the pedal.
The reaction here results in the formation of acetaldehyde and water, which condenses in this Liebig condenser here, dropping into the flask here.
Now, we have 2 sets, A and B, and A consists of the elements
1, 3, and 2.
1, 3, and 2, and we write it down this way: A equals, and we put these elements in curly brackets like 1, 3, and 2. That's to show that we're dealing with a set. Now, B consists of the elements
2, 4,
2, 4, and 5. We write down B is the set consisting of 2, 4, and 5. And it doesn't matter in what order we take them.
Mr. Kirkpatrick has been Vice Principal of Wesley College for 20 years. I asked him to describe the out-of-school clubs and societies.
We have a wide variety of societies providing for every sort of interest. Perhaps the most colourful and popular is the Continental Tours, which have been run for boys since 1953, every year under the charge of Mr. Devers, and in alternate years for girls. And then one of our oldest societies is the Dramatic Society, which was formed in 1950.
Well, if you insist. An Englishman knows how to wait. I hope you're not expecting me to stand by while you go through that monstrous farce of a coronation again. And all the battles as well. Orleans, Patay, Beaugency. I might as well tell you now I should find that in very poor taste.
Put your mind at rest, my lord. There are too few of us here to stage the battles.
Good.
Joan, you may begin.
May I begin wherever I like?
Audrey, could you move your head slightly to your right, please?
Thank you, Steve.
And could you look up slightly? That's great. Hold that.
That's about 20 seconds. Do you think that should be enough?
I think that's plenty.
We'll pass it on to you then.
Right. Thank you.
Make sure all that developer comes off.
I think that'll do now.
Yeah, okay. What's it like, Derek?
Checkmate.
Who says?
This is what integration does. If integration does this, it is not the answer to this racialism. What is? Segregation is. I would offer segregation as an answer to racialism.
What about my friend Rastus?
Integration can only eventually breed hatred and mistrust.
Now, Avril here has got a very bad cut on her head. We have placed the dressing on her head, and now we use this bandage to keep it in place. We put a hem on the bandage like so, and then place it across her forehead. Now we tuck in the end, and then bring these round, and then tie across her forehead. Make sure when you're doing this, you use a reef knot. I just tuck in at the end, let it down again.
The Reverend Dr. Albert Holland has been chairman of the Board of Governors of Wesley College for the past 12 years. I asked him to talk about the reasons which led to the decision to move the school to Dundrum.
We had to raise our sights in the matter of education. We had to adjust our thinking to the new demands of the new age, and we felt that some new effort was required and new premises were required too. In this move to Ludford, we are giving evidence of our faith in God, our faith in Wesley College, and our faith in the future of Ireland. The new facilities which we will have at Ludford Park will be an instrument in our hands for the job that Wesley College has got to do.
Our first design problem, when it was decided to move the whole school up to Ludford Park, was to decide which areas of the site would be reserved for playing fields and which for buildings. We naturally reserved the level areas for playing fields and chose the more sloping parts for the buildings. We located the residence blocks, the boys and the girls, nearest to the existing house. And beside the residence blocks, we placed the administration block, which contains an assembly hall, dining hall, library, and other central spaces, as well as, of course, as the administrative offices. Next to that comes the long classroom block, which forms the hub of the teaching areas of the school. And in the background, the science block, and very close to the classroom block, the gymnasium building, which will be extended, we hope, with a covered swimming pool. The classroom block itself has an open colonnade on the ground floor and will serve as the sort of circulation center of the whole teaching area, the colonnade giving protection for circulation in bad weather.
Mr. Walker, it must be very exciting for you to see the buildings progressing so well. You've told us about the general layout and the outside of the premises. Now, what sort of things are there inside to notice?
Well, basically what we've tried to do with the interior of the building is to make them as flexible as possible. That's to say that we should be able to get as much different usage out of the different parts as possible. And as the school grows and changes, that we should be able to make alterations. For example, the internal walls, none of these carry any load and can be taken down and rebuilt in other locations, changing the shape of rooms and so on. In the assembly building, we've tried to get the impression in that building of one large open space which can be subdivided in different ways. We've achieved this impression, I think, with the type of partitioning we've used, which will be glazed from door height so that you see through the whole building. And the relationship of the assembly hall, stage, and a small hall is such that the three can be combined to be used together as one space, or each independently, or the assembly hall naturally enough with the stage, or the stage with the small hall. In this sort of way, we hope to achieve a great flexibility in the use of the buildings. And the department give a grant which is approximately 2/3 of the cost of the building, up to a maximum cost of £5.10 per square foot, so that you have to work within a certain total cost on the building, certain cost per square foot, and areas are prescribed, and the number of rooms you have are prescribed, and so on.
Well, now, what have you been able to do about incorporating modern teaching methods?
Throughout almost all the rooms in the building, certainly in all of the teaching rooms and in many of the rooms which will be used for club activities or group activities, we have piped TV. You can plug in a television set anywhere in the buildings, and many of the rooms have been planned for blackouts so that we can use visual aids in a great number of the spaces.
The Board of Governors have appointed Mr. Harry Forsyth as appeal organiser.
In round figures, this big project at Ludford Park will cost £900,000. we expect to receive £400,000 of this amount from the sale of our properties and a further £300,000 through government grants. This leaves a deficit of £200,000, and it is my job to raise this amount.
Deirdre, Wesley College is one of the few schools in Ireland that has co-education. How do you think co-education works out in Wesley?
I think it's a very good idea. I think it makes people less shy and they can talk to each other and they get used to having mixed classes, mixed everything really. And when you go out into the world, it gives you better standing. I think you understand people better.
Do you think it makes for keener competition in class?
Yes, I think so. I think it's a very good idea.
Do you see any adverse effects at all?
No, I can't say. And I've always been glad I've come to a co-educational school. I don't regret it at all.
David, the real ideal of Wesley College is that it should be a Christian school. How far do you think the school achieves its ideal?
You take morning prayers, for instance. When people are meant to be praying, saying their prayers, you just have a look around, and not very many of them are praying. They're standing up just looking, watching other people, seeing what they do.
Well, I would like to add about the scripture classes. Years ago, we used to just have set courses, but nowadays we have set courses plus discussions. I think this is a lot to do with Christian life, is discussing life in general. It's a lot more to it than just praying in church and going to Bible unions. I think talking to other people about Christianity is the main thing.
I think there are lots of Christians who come to Wesley, and they certainly leave Wesley Christians, but many of us who aren't true Christians when we come.
In religious class in Wesley, too much emphasis is placed on learning about what happened in the early days of the church. Instead, I think we should learn about what is happening today in religious matters all over the world.
There is an element in Wesley who do try and help those of us who aren't Christians.
The obvious ones like boys and girls Bible clubs and scripture classes, but I suppose mainly the example of few Christians who are in Wesley and to keep Christianity alive.
As I walk up these stairs, I can reflect many happy memories of my college days at Wesley, and often walking up these steps after a game of rugby football, one could come up with dirty black knees, dirty faces, and muddy hair. I can also reflect at, after lights out in the dormitory, sneaking down in slippers to the lower classrooms to hear, I think it was Henry Hall on a crystal set. Another reflection I often had was coming up the stairs ready to go home on a Sunday afternoon after college chapel. This was one of the important features, I think, of school life here, and this was made very real by the very fine addresses we had by the famous T.J. Irwin, a former headmaster of Wesley College.
Unite the two so long disjoined, knowledge and vital piety. This is a couplet from Charles Wesley's hymn, which was sung on that 1st of October 1845 when Wesley College began, and on every Founder's Day since. It remains the ideal of this school.
Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me
such a long time since I left Wesley, and such a long time since I went, almost 60 years ago. And yet, to me, this psalm has always been the best and the most helpful, as I think it has been to most who pass through Wesley, because the Lord is their shepherd and my shepherd, and we hope he will continue to be the shepherd of all who pass through this college. Goodness and mercy all my life shall surely follow me, and in God's house forevermore my dwelling place shall be.
Narrator, Reverend George Ferguson. Lighting cameraman, Ken Murphy. Camera assistant, Simon Weafer. Sound, Terry Goff and Eamon Hayes. Technical assistants, Paddy McDowell and Liam Lee. Production assistant, Sheila Fitzpatrick. Film editor, Michael Stoffer. Produced and directed by Alan Davidson.